Hi, this is Donna Jakunis, and I want to talk today about these lace motifs from my half pie shawl called Hemisphere. Hemisphere, half of a sphere, because it's a half pie. These are two motifs that I used in the shawl, and these are different. Even though if you look quickly at them, they'll look very much the same. I went over them in the overview video, but this bottom one has a wrong side row with lace patterning like this right here. So you can see first row of the chart is plain, and then the second row, which is a wrong side, has the patterning. Then the rest is pretty standard for regular lace knitting, where you have lace on a odd right side row and plain wrong side rows. Well, this motif, which is right here, is identical to the first one, except that the first row of the lace patterning is moved down to the right side row, and therefore your decreases are not purl decreases, they're knit decreases. They both are 8-row patterns, and if you look at them, all the rows are the same except that bottom part. So you can see them here. Now, some of you might be upset with me because I used this one first in the pie shawl. And so you have gone along and you've done knitting with that on the wrong side row. But I thought this was a really great introduction to having lace on the wrong side row, because it's such a, basically simple motif, only has one row with the wrong side things. If you're stuck on the shawl and you're having a really hard time on ring 4 or 5, you can not do this motif. You can do this motif instead. The only thing you have to change is that first 2 rows. Basically, you're switching them, and you are changing the decreases so that they have knits and not purls. Now, you'll also thank me, because when you get up to this big diamond trellis pattern, it has no markings, no working of lace patterning on any wrong side rows. And I did that for a couple reasons. One is because I wouldn't want to work lace on the wrong side rows on this, and second, because that's how it was in the book I got the motif from. It's a big diamond that takes this and incorporates it into an overall kind of lattice and diamond pattern. The motifs I got out of this book, The Magic of Shetland Lace Knitting by Elizabeth Lovick. It's a really great book. It's got tons of pattern stitches from Shetland lace. And I wanted to do this half pie shawl with Shetland lace stitches, but I wanted to study these ones where there's a hole, an eyelet in the middle, because this is something I've been trying to figure out for a few years. Here's the spider insertion that we'll get to later in the shawl and we'll talk about. But you see this row here where it has this eyelet, the yarn over is right in the center, surrounded by decreases. That's what makes that hole in the center. So I've been looking at patterns like this for years. Here's the eyelid one, or eyelet, but it's called eyelid in the Shetland dialect. Here's the spider thing used all over motif. You see, they all have in common is that row that has the eyelet or the yarn over right in the center. So I've been trying to study how this works for a long time, from way back when I was intimidated. This is a bird's eye all over pattern that we're not doing. There's a really cool shawl with this in Victorian Lace Today by Jane Sowerby, and this is the one I first saw, and it just made me think I would go crazy, because it has the lace decreases and increases on every single row, and it's all mixed together, and the eyelets are made into an overall pattern. But if you look, you can see it still has that same basic structure of how the little circle motifs are made. So I haven't knit this one yet, but it's coming up soon for something, because I want to learn this better. But this is our starting point for learning those motifs. And I started you with the slightly harder one because it was used as a single motif. And then when we come to this bigger pattern, you have the easier one. But as I said, if you are afraid of this, or if you're having a really hard time and you get stuck on rings 4 or 5 of the Hemisphere shawl, you can substitute this for this. Okay, that's it. Let's continue our knitting, and we have the easier pattern Now, it's big, it's a lot of knitting, but it doesn't have any wrong side row patterning.